We are looking at Proverbs 1 through 7 in these weeks, and using this prologue, this purpose statement for the book of Proverbs, telling us why the book was assembled and why it was put together and why we should read it. We're using these verses to put wisdom under a microscope and to see the things that are lost to us for a variety of reasons today. In many ways, when we talk about the question, what is wisdom? We're trying to recover something, a mindset that is very old and that has not been passed down to us. We're talking about forgotten things. We're talking about mindsets that are, frankly, deeply foreign to us. And we are going to approach that kind of strangeness this morning in a particular way. So we've talked about the fact that wisdom in the Bible and in the book of Proverbs is an organism. It's a whole. It's a living thing. You can't chop it up and take the pieces you like and leave the rest. It's an all or nothing proposition. The Lord made the world to work in a certain moral and spiritual way, and that is the way of wisdom. Wisdom has behaviors. When you put it under a microscope and recover it and look at it closely, you see patterns of behavior. We call these virtues. These are patterns that we start to build into our lives so that we behave in the way of wisdom. We're learning these patterns. It's not a checklist. Okay, I was prudent yesterday, so I can check that box. No, this is a pattern that we want to build into our whole life and our whole character. And last week we saw that wisdom, when you look at it closely, has roles for each of us to play in life. These roles are the ways that we give to others and help them flourish and build a community that supports them, keeps them safe, and contributes to their thriving. And so we talked about some of these roles. We talked about the role of son, the heir of a legacy, who has that legacy in trust and is to pass it on into the future, to future generations. We talked about kings, the role of authority, such as Solomon has. We talked about the role of the learner, the role of the youth, the role of the citizen, that we in this church, we are not customers at a store who purchase a good or a service and then leave the store to use it. We are citizens of a community. And as citizens, we are owners and stewards of this community. And so these are very important concepts. We each have a role in the wisdom of God. We're going to take one more step this morning, and we're going to say this. Your role gives you the DNA of what you are supposed to do in life. The information, the DNA that determines the specific actions that you need to take come through the roles that you have in life. And the actions that your role gives to you has a name. And the name of these actions is duty. Now, I just crossed a line. Like these little microscopic creatures busting out of some line or other. I don't know what this is. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know whether they're coming in or going out. I just know there's a line and they're going through it. We just crossed a line, or I did, by using the word duty. Duty is about the only four-letter word left in our society. We don't use it. It is disreputable. It is a word that we no longer think applies to us, and to attempt to apply it to our lives is to do something controlling, legalistic, to do something offensively traditional. It's to talk like a foreigner in this time. And I just used it. And I didn't use it with irony. I didn't use it with the appropriate sarcasm. I used it straight. And we're not supposed to do that. We do not believe in our society any longer that duty is a valid reason to take an action. We don't believe it. What do we believe about ethics? Alistair McIntyre, in his very important book, After Virtue, he says that we believe today in a kind of managerial ethic. We have managers. They're managers because they're competent and they know how to get things done. They know the future. They know how to get results, which is to say, managers know how to employ people, use people as instruments to get results. And so the ethics of management is the ethics of compliance. You comply with the regulation. Do you know why? No, probably not. Do you care? Nah. But the regulation is there. The management says, do it this way or according to this checklist. So you do it, you comply, and then the organization is, we would say, in compliance. And this kind of view of ethics is that your function in life is to be in compliance. That's all. There's no implication here that there's right or wrong. There's just a result out there in the future, and you're the instrument to attain that result. Maybe the result is public health. Maybe the result is some good or service. Maybe the result is some law that needs to be implemented, whatever it may be. Right or wrong doesn't enter into it. Results are the only thing we care about. So let's think about this in light of four-way stop. Stop signs in an intersection. You come up to that intersection and management has said, stop at the stop sign. And so we are in compliance. We come up to that intersection and we stop. What is the result that we want to achieve there? Safety. We don't want car crashes at intersections. So, this isn't about right or wrong. This isn't about virtue. This isn't about any of that stuff. This is just about you being safe. That's all. There's another thing that we believe about ethics, and that is what Carl Trueman and many others are now calling expressive individualism. Expressive individualism is the idea that your personal authenticity is the most important thing in your life, and that your job as an individual is to express that authenticity. You are to create yourself. You are to express what is deep inside you in terms of desires, identity, whatever it may be. You have something inside you that you want to bring out and express to the world. And expressive individualism does not acknowledge any barrier to that personal expression. It's the most important thing in your life. So we believe this probably more deeply than we believe any other moral principle. That your job, your role in the universe is to express yourself, and that you should knock down any and all barriers to self-expression. So let's run that through the four-way stop. In expressive individualism, there's the four-way stop, and you come to that intersection. Does it really mean stop? Well, in our society, it depends. It's complicated. Is it 12:37 in the morning and there's nobody else there and you can see and you know, and what you really want is to get through that intersection? Do you have to stop? Do you have to be in compliance when no one's looking? No. So just blow through that thing and, maybe there's somebody else there, but you're a careful person, you're a good person, so you'll do the right thing by the other people there, but you don't have to stop. So we have a society where there has been a revolution in how we think of right and wrong, good and evil, how we think about ethics. And we do not think in terms of duty any longer. We now think in terms of compliance and self-expression. And both of those things are, we would say, value neutral. There's this space where the universe has no values. Think that through for a moment. There's a space where the universe makes no judgments, has no values, there is no right and wrong, it's neutral. And that's what we think. Deeply, we believe this. And we're trying to run our society on these principles. We've been trying to do this for a very long time. And to the point that when I haul out the word duty, what I'm saying is scandalously countercultural. Because I'm saying that the universe is not neutral. It is filled with meaning and values. And I'm saying that the managerial ethic of saying, we're going to pursue some results here and you all get on board. I'm saying that the managerial ethic is nowhere near what we need in order to live wisely. And I'm saying that expressive individualism is a lie that is ultimately harmful to you and the people around you. So that's quite a lot, and we're not even out of the introduction yet. Let's look at this passage, and let's get the logic of where we're deriving this from Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 7, the prologue of this book, where Solomon tells us why he put it together, why he wrote it, and what we should do with it. So what are we saying here about duties? 3 principles. First one in review. Roles are a real thing in God's universe. Roles matter. Roles are created and given by God for our flourishing as individuals and our formation as persons and for the flourishing of everyone around us. So these roles are very important. And let's just take the role of citizen and let's place ourselves at that intersection with the 4-way stop. In the biblical view of the 4-way stop, if I can put it this way, you're a citizen. You're a citizen of this city, which means you are an owner steward of that intersection. You possess that intersection of roads because you are a citizen of this region, a citizen of this town. And to some extent, at least, you paid for that intersection. You paid for the concrete and the city planning that constructed the thing. And so it's yours. It's yours in trust. And everything that happens at that intersection, while you're there, is your responsibility. So as a citizen, you come up to that intersection. This is not a neutral moment. This is a moment where you say, here is a space where people need to drive and good needs to happen. Cooperation needs to happen. Not just safety, which is no accidents, but the good of people coming up to an intersection and cooperating to get through it. Let me ask you a question. How good is Monday going to be on this cooperation point? How good do you expect our city to be on this matter of going through your daily business and daily travels, and you're sure that everybody is going to fulfill their responsibilities as they do that? What are your expectations for tomorrow morning? Mine are pretty darn low. Why are we living this way? Why are we saying that, this is a value-neutral space and it's really just about compliance? It's not about whether you're a good or bad person. It's not about duties. Why are we doing this when we're watching the quality of our life go down and down and down, and we haven't found the bottom yet? Why have we discarded the idea that there is a role for me as I go out into our town? It's a different way to think, but it's a way to think that leads to communities characterized by cooperation, prudence, wisdom, and all of the results we would like from that, like safety and no accidents. So there are these roles. There's a role of father. So now I'm going to go on a rant. A few years ago, there were these things put out on billboards, these public service announcements, reminding you to do good things as a dad. And there were all kinds of these billboards about different roles in life. And this particular billboard that I'm going to rant about said, with a big old picture of a young guy and his little kid, and they're at the playground and he's pushing him on the swing or something like that. The words were, "Take time to be a dad." Made me furious. I almost ran a stop sign when I saw it. You know why it made me furious? Because there's a role there. And my gut reaction was, you are a dad, whether you take the time or not. And that role is being fulfilled in someone's life. If you have children, you are a dad. The only question is whether you're doing it right. That's my gut reaction to that. A sign like that, the PSA approach to basically saying, be nice, be a good person, comply. That approach is the sign to me that our society is incapable of addressing some of the most fundamental goods in our life. What we should be saying is, whether you take the time or not, if you have a child, you are a dad, and that child is receiving from you right now. And it's important. And maybe you take the time, maybe you don't, but it is happening. and you are responsible. See, this is the preparation for the idea of duty. You fathered the child. You did that. And so you have responsibilities. You have the role of a father toward that child. So this is kind of the foundational idea. This is the DNA of what we're talking about here when we talk about duties. A second principle. There are goods that the people around you need. They need these goods from you. So when we go out into the marketplace, what are some of the good things that you need from the people you do business with? Some of those good things are that when you sign a contract, it actually happens the way it is spelled out in the contract. You pay out the right amount of money, you keep that promise, and then the provider fulfills their end of the contract and does the work and does it right. We want this good to characterize our business dealings. Let's think of it a different way. Let's think about that kid on the swing, and his dad is taking the time to be a dad. And it's very clear that he's looking at his watch, looking at his phone, looking at the other people around the playground, and making business calls and doing all of the stuff that he's doing while he takes the time to be a dad. Has he supplied the good that that child on the swing needs? No. He's taken the time, taking the time to be a dad, doing dad stuff while I do other things. No, the whole orientation here is, this is my child. There is no one else who can do dad things like I can do with this child. No one else. I'm it. And so, because that's true, I am going to put away all of the other stuff, and I'm going to prioritize this moment. And I'm going to create a whole life around this child that develops security, that develops confidence, that builds up love, that gives moral instruction so the child understands his or her role in life. I'm going to provide all of these things. I'm going to build all of these things. That is a dad. A dad is a good giver. So when we approach life from the point of view of roles, and we approach life from the point of view that there's a good that needs to be done here, then when we approach the four-way stop, what we're saying is there's something that needs to happen here at this four-way stop that is deeper than just me coming to a stop before the white line and feeling the rollback. There's a good that needs to happen here. It's deeply good. It is a gift of cooperation to the other people, whether it's pedestrians, bicyclists, whoever it may be. The gift of that to the people who are fellow citizens with me. This is the orientation we're talking about. And that's the DNA that leads us to actions. Specific things that we do, and we do them, why? Because in that moment, it is our duty to do them. No one else is going to do this for me. This is the right thing in this moment. I will do it because that is right. Look at verse 3 with me. The purpose of the book: to know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing. 4 words here. Wise dealing. So this is a word that it's an intensive verb in this verse. It means, it's kind of in its normal usage, it means to pay attention, to consider. But in this intensive stem, it's saying, look closely, observe, consider carefully the actions that you're taking and their outcomes. And so to receive instruction in taking actions that are the fruit of careful consideration of all of the factors involved, especially the moral ones. Here's what's interesting about this word. If you look at the way it's used in the Old Testament, it's a synonym for success. Isn't that interesting? It means that there's this person who is effective at taking action, and their effectiveness means there's a win-win for the different people involved in that transaction. The people they're dealing with in business, they are helped by this person, and the people who are looking on benefit as well. And then so the action they take is a win-win for themselves and for all of the other people around them. They are building flourishing. That's the Bible's definition of success. Here's the second word. To receive instruction in wise dealing in righteousness, tzedek. This is a noun that has reference to the law of God. This is the idea that you are righteous by the definition that God gives to your actions, not that you give to it. So the idea of righteousness is like the polar opposite of expressive individualism. I define what is good for me. Righteousness says, no, God defines it. It's done. And His definition of righteousness is what is applied to our actions. We want to learn instruction in that. Instruction in justice. So this is now all of the actions of the legal system. This is taking cases in court. This is trying cases. This is rendering a verdict. This is executing the judgment. All of that taken together is justice, where the matter of a conflict is out of your hands and now someone else is making the decision in it. And so this is saying we need instruction in that. We need to know how to function when we get into conflict and there needs to be a resolution, and we need to hand that decision to someone else and function that way. Here's a fourth word, the final word, equity. This is a word for like evenness or smoothness. This is the idea that your progress is it's easy. It's not full of impediments. It's not full of barriers. There aren't potholes on the road. The road has just been resurfaced, and now you're driving on it and everything's smooth. Equity. This means in our relationships, we deal openly, transparently, not with hidden agendas, not with lies, certainly. We're dealing with each other in this kind of open way. And what Proverbs is saying is these are the actions of wisdom. And we're taking the word duty and we're putting it on these actions. So we end up with this. The orientation of Proverbs toward wisdom is that wisdom is a living thing. It has patterns of behavior called virtues. Those virtues set you up to thrive in the roles that you have in your life. Those virtues help you succeed in those roles by giving flourishing and security and good to other people. And so as you think about those roles and you come into different situations, you see a need that needs to be met, and you say in your head and you feel in your gut, that's me. It's my role in this situation right now to do this because it's right. That's the orientation. Now we look at that way of thinking, we say, oh, that's so insincere, it's so inauthentic. It comes from duty. It comes from that sense of kind of legal control. Isn't it so much better that we just express our true selves, which is good, and that out of that self-expression, all of this good stuff just kind of flows? Isn't that so much better? Well, what happens when we are given free rein to express ourselves? I think the internet happens. I kind of think that's what we're looking at here. You have the ability to say whatever you want. You can do it anonymously. And there, the limits disappear almost completely. You can literally do and say whatever you want. And within pretty broad margins, you've got the freedom to do it. The impediments are gone. And there are no duties in our society. There's just compliance, and there's just individual expressivism, or expressive individualism, whichever one you want to call it. So with those two things, if you can rationalize to yourself that you're still in compliance with something, and if you're expressing yourself, why wouldn't you do it? I would put it to you that one of the reasons our society is becoming so intolerable to live in, where we look at what is happening and we say, I don't want any part of this. I don't want to be mixed up in this mess. This is horrible. I don't want to engage with this at all. I don't even want to leave my house. There's a reason why our society is that way. We're fools. That's why. We have traded the legacy of wisdom for a legacy of untried little sentimental rules that we made up a couple weeks ago. And we're just kind of hoping it works out. Looks like I may have some questions here. I'd better pay attention to that. No, that's a text from someone who prays for me every week. I think they're in Alaska. And so that's that person. You're being prayed for this morning by somebody in Alaska. So, good news. All right. Now, I've said a lot of stuff that is pretty inflammatory. So let's back up and let me give you a couple of arguments why I think these things are true. A couple of reasons. One of them is pretty broad. The other is specifically Christian. Here's the first one. What would be the consequences in our society if we had to coerce people to do good things? What would happen if we had to force people to do good things? We couldn't rely anymore on people having an internal regulator that says, well, this is me right now, I need to do this good thing. We can't rely on that anymore. What happens if we have to force them to do the right thing? Let me put a very fine point on this. What if no one will stop at the four-way stop? What if they just won't do it? It's kind of a funny thing, actually. All you put up there is a big red sign, and it's not even that big. You don't put any physical barriers. It's just a white line painted on the road, and sometimes not even that. There's absolutely no compulsion whatsoever. It's just a sign saying, stop, and it's white letters on red. And that's it. That's all we got. And what's wild about this is people do. They stop. How good is that? It's amazing. So what if you take that away? What if you have to put a gate up to make them stop? And so then there's the radar thing or whatever, and the gate goes up, like at the parking garage, and then you can go on. What if you had to do that at every four-way stop to make people stop? What if you have to do the thing, maybe you could design something where that tire shredding thing that they put on the road, don't back up. What happens if they put that there where if you didn't stop, you'd shred your tires? How much would this cost? What if finally you got people, they don't even care about their tires. They're tired of being bossed around, and they want to express themselves. So they just drive through the intersection, regardless of consequences. They break through the gate. What if you have to go to the extreme of posting snipers at the intersection? What if you have to literally, at the point of a gun, make them comply? Do you want to live in that society? No. Stop signs are good. Let's just stay there. I'll do it. You know why I'll do it? Even when I don't want to, when I sincerely, at 12:37 a.m., I sincerely just want to blow through that intersection and be on my way. I'm going to stop. Why? Because it's right. It's my duty as a citizen who owns that intersection. That's why. And the good of a society founded on that duty is strengthened every time I do it. That's the society I want to live in. I want to live with people who have that same thing, whether it's sincere or authentic or not, they're going to stop. Whether that dad at the playground sincerely just wants to be on his phone. He's got things to do. He's got people he needs to text and call. He's busy, and this little kid just wants to, again, Daddy, again, one more time. Sincerely, he doesn't want to do it. I want the dad who says, the phone stays in my pocket. I don't care how many people have called in the last 5 minutes. This is my son. This is my daughter. And no one else can do this for him and for her. That's it. Duty is a powerful good. It helps people flourish. And the consequences of taking it away, well, we're looking at it. I want you just to make this a little research project this week. How much does it cost our society to force people to do their duty? How much do all the inspectors cost? How much do all of the police cost? How much do the court systems cost? How much does the family court system cost? How much does the system of private lawsuits, civil courts, how much does that cost? Just run those numbers for a bit and ask yourself, is this smart, these ethics we've got? Here's the second reason. We have an example of someone who did not want to do something and did it anyway. Turn to Luke chapter 22. This is Jesus. This is him on the Mount of Olives in the Garden of Gethsemane. And from before the creation of the world, he and his Father have conspired together to save sinners. And Jesus, the Son of the Father, has a role in this. His role is to be the Passover lamb who takes away the sins of the world by giving his life. And Jesus withdrew, verse 41 of Luke 22, about a stone's throw from his disciples and knelt down and prayed, saying, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. I don't want to do this. I don't want to die. I don't want the shame. I'm tired. I'm broken down. So here's this Son of God who is God, and yet in his humanness, he is saying, self-preservation's kicking in here, and I actually don't deserve this. If you are willing, Father, make this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, what are these words? Not my will, but yours be done. Do you know why Jesus went to the cross? Well, yeah, because he loved us. Well, he did. Well, he did it because he wanted to save the world from sin. True. He had a result that he wanted to attain, and this was the only way to attain it. Fair. You know why he did it? He tells us. He did it because in relation to his Father and what they had decided, it was his role, it was his duty. And our lives are built on his learning obedience, the way Hebrews describes this, to his Father. Loved ones, if we want to be wise, we need to think differently about the nature of the world we live in. We need to think seriously about the wisdom that cannot be chopped up, that expresses itself in the behavior of virtues that set us up to thrive in our roles, and those roles put us in situations where we have duties. And we need to think about those duties as the deep stuff of providing good and flourishing for the people around us and giving glory to God, even when we don't want to. Even when everything in our individuality is saying, don't do it, you'll lose your life. And Jesus says, he who loses his life for my sake will find it.